So yeah, this is a Jesus fish. Part of the fish tail is gone. And the reason I'm making this video today is because this happened a few weeks ago. This was on the back of my car. And someone randomly came along and just snapped the tail off, right? Someone else came and clean ripped off the whole fish from the car, just ripped it off, not even their property, my property. They ripped it full off the car, and then they posted it through this letterbox into my house. And we have to remember not to fear in this, because God will have the last say. He is the righteous judge, and he will deal with this accordingly in time.
Folks, so you can tell what a rift this is causing.
The names of the people who are...
Oops, sorry about that. We'll start this again. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show, everybody. Keaton and Russ here for Jimmy. He is on the road this week in Toronto on the 17th, Red Bank, New Jersey on the 18th, Northampton, Massachusetts on the 19th, and Concord, New Hampshire on the 20th. So, folks, you can get a sense of what a rift this is causing within MAGA. Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro had a little debate whether Epstein was an intelligence asset for America or Israel. What position do you think Ben Shapiro took in this? I'm guessing nothing to see here. Let's find out.
Straight missionary. Of the people who are making the claim that that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and that the most gross, and sort of extreme of the conspiracy theories, or theories, just don't even call them conspiracy theories, the most sort of, extreme version of the theory is not true. I have names of the people who are claiming that. Okay, they are all in the administration. And this is my point. If other people want to make those claims that are counter to that, then they should provide evidence, or at least put their names on it so we can question them about that as well. Because otherwise we're just in the realm of pure speculation. And frankly, I just don't find that useful. I would love...
Okay, but the problem with complaining about that is that we are forced to engage in speculation because we don't have information to go off of. The reason we don't have information to go off of is because we don't have the files, because the government will not release the files. Like, it's a very chicken shit way to argue, well, you don't have any evidence to support what you're saying. We're not saying anything. What we're saying is there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that would lead us to believe that there is a lot going on that shouldn't be going on. That's why we want it investigated and we want the findings made public. It just seems like a very cowardly argument to say, well, you can't cite evidence. No, that's the whole point. That's the whole reason this is such a big deal. No, we can't cite evidence because we don't have it, because you won't let us see it.
Of more useful information. This is why I'm angry at Pam Bondi. I think there should be all the useful information possible.
Good.
But the same thing holds true for people who are making claims on the other side. Otherwise, I can claim that...
What are you talking about? Well, that doesn't make any sense. You're saying, well, yeah, I'm mad at Pam Bondi for not releasing the information, but I'm also mad at the other side because they don't have any evidence to cite. Well, she's sitting on it. She said she's sitting on it. So how could we cite it if we are not allowed to see it?
Well, there's a good example of what I'm saying. All of the pod bro grifters know that this is really bad for them. Even Ben Shapiro feels like he has to, in some way, nod to the people who want the files released.
Yes, exactly.
He was working for a cadre of space aliens who are blackmailing high-profile Americans in order to protect from a future invasion. And there's just about as much evidence for that as many of the claims that are being made on the other side.
All right, well, let's talk about that.
That is made requires evidence. Any claim that's being made requires actual evidence. And at the very least, in the absence of evidence, the credible names of the people that I can either trust or not trust, ranging from, again, the President of the United States and Vice President to the head of the FBI, the AG, and the Deputy Head of the FBI.
Well, I think it's very hard to say those people need to come out and put their names on these claims when they're working for an administration, this one and the one before, that didn't want that to come out. You're asking somebody to countermand the people they work for.
How am I supposed to falsify their claims? Now we're working in the realm of the unfalsifiable.
You're not, but look, Ben, you can't come to me and say, everybody I know says he killed himself. And then I respond saying, I actually have my own sources who say he didn't. And then you say, well, your sources are not valid because they won't put their names on it. Okay, who are your sources? Let's go down the list, and then we'll talk about why they might be saying that.
My sources are the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, Dan Bongino, the Deputy Head of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. And those aren't just my sources. They're everybody's sources because they publicly came out and said this.
Okay.
Right. So this sounds a lot like Charlie Kirk saying, I'm going to trust my friends in the government.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It sounds a lot like what that is. That means nothing. That means nothing. Oh, Kash Patel said it, so it must be true. Really? Donald Trump said it, so it must be true.
Trump hasn't specifically weighed in on that specific aspect of it. We've all seen the limited things that Trump has said and tweeted on this. And J.D. Vance was calling for transparency and suggesting otherwise prior to taking office. He hasn't commented on this so far, so he's not one of your sources.
He's the vice
you've
president.
Got Kash, you've got
asked.
Dan, and you've got Pam, and we've already discussed that memo in full detail. I'm talking about people behind the scenes who, prior to this, to Trump taking office, I'm not going to get too specific, but trust me, I have high-level sources who have said they don't believe any of that. Any of that. Okay. So, and I'm not going to out them for purposes of convincing you, but you're telling me name them. No, I'm not going to. I don't have authorization.
I'm not
and then
no,
you say, well, I dismiss
Megan,
all of it because you won't name them.
Hold on, Megan. I'm not saying you should name them. I'm saying they should name themselves because otherwise they are being complicit in one of the greatest cover-ups in the history of the American
That's easy for you to say, Ben. That's easy. That's very easy for you to say.
Why is that easy for me to say?
Why is it easy for you to say? I mean, it's like you don't know. Is this guy just like this unaware of the context of the conversation? Like, what do you mean? How is it easy for you to say? What she's saying is she has people who have not come forward who think that this is all a cover-up and it's bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
And that he has sources, and his sources are public because they are the president, the FBI director, the deputy FBI director, and the AG. And he's saying, well, why would your anonymous sources not reveal themselves? Have you been following this at all? Did you hear about Virginia Giuffre, who got ran off the road by a speeding school bus and 3 weeks later took her own life? Like, that might be part of why people are afraid to come forward. He just looks completely... I guess if you're that connected to Israel, you just don't really live in other people's shoes, right? It's hard to put yourself in the shoes of someone who might be on a Mossad hit list when, you...
when you work for Mossad.
When you're privy to the Mossad hit list. Yeah, exactly.
Because you'll have your job and you'll have your millions, no matter what they do.
Okay, this is amazing. We got to back this up a little bit. Okay, so she says it's easy for you to say.
In one of the greatest cover-ups in the history of the American
That's easy for you to say, Ben. That's easy. That's very easy for you to say.
Why is that easy for me to say? Why?
Because you'll have your job and you'll have your millions, no matter what they do.
Megan, give me a break. If somebody came out today and they were a whistleblower on the greatest scandal in the history of the American Republic, they would make more money tomorrow than in their entire life working for the FBI. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
That is an absurd statement.
You can't spend it when you're dead.
Even that notwithstanding, that is an absurd statement. It's an absurd statement. Whitney Webb has written 2 books that are 500 pages long each. She's living in some Uruguayan hut village inside somewhere. I don't know if it's Uruguay. I'm just being deliberately vague since I assume the reason she lives down there is because she doesn't want people knowing where she's at for good reason, because this is very dangerous, right? So the idea that if you do research into this and you blow the whistle on these scandals, you'll be rich and famous and living high on the hog. That's nonsense. Yeah. How many 9/11 truther authors do you know that are millionaires living high on the hog? Yeah. How many?
They usually wind up in exile in Russia.
How many books about Bill Clinton's various crimes against women have made people boatloads of money? Juanita Broaddrick came forward with her claims in the 90s. She did not write a book, probably because she didn't want that to compromise the integrity of her story. She didn't want to look like she was cashing in. She wasn't cashing in. She came out with a book in advance of the 2016 campaign about what Bill Clinton did to her. Did that tear it up on the charts? Did she make a boatload of it? No one ever fucking heard of it. I bet 99% of people watching this don't even know she ever wrote it. So the idea that people who expose deep state fuckery get rich and famous off of it is absolute nonsense. It's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. That's why we're doing a show on StreamYard, and Anderson Cooper is living in the West Village in a fucking converted fire station turned mansion. Exactly.
There, yeah.
What are you talking about? Oh, there's so much money to be made in blowing the lid off of these. Yeah, that's nonsense. It's the complete opposite. The complete opposite.
Well, because you have to remember, if what you're blowing the lid off are narratives that the establishment wants suppressed, you're not going to get any positive publicity.
Right.
You're probably not going to get any. I mean, we all know who Whitney Webb is. The average person on the street doesn't know Whitney Webb. They wouldn't mention her. They would never mention her. Even a lot of people in the supposed truth-telling space won't talk to Whitney. And that's when you know who's in the pockets of a lot of Silicon Valley overlords. People who won't talk to Whitney Webb, who convey that they're telling you the real truth.
Yeah. Here, 1 second. So I grabbed this. So this is her book, right? I ordered her book on March 27th of this year. I came with a little notice on the back page saying made in the United States, North Haven, Connecticut on March 28th. So these are print-on-demand books. They print them when they're ordered.
Right.
That's what telling the truth about Jeffrey Epstein gets you. Look at the size of this fucking book.
Right.
A lot in this book.
Right.
What did it get her? A print-on-demand deal. So the idea that, oh, well, why wouldn't they come forward? They'll make a ton of money. It's nonsense. I don't know if he knows it. I don't know if he realizes how absurd a statement that is, but it's pretty crazy. All right, let's finish this up.
There are reasons not to cross the people who are in charge. And that's all I'm going to say. And look, this is me not having drawn a conclusion. I don't know what the truth is. I've been reporting in a way. I mean, I see you've taken a side that you've chosen to believe the story that's being offered, and that's fine. A lot of people have. I'm not there yet. I don't actively say that there's a pedophile ring. I don't say any of that. I'm just following the facts, and we're not at the place where I can draw that conclusion.
Well, no, I can draw the conclusion that the evidence that I'm seeing and the people who are speaking about it lead me toward this particular conclusion. And if counter evidence is presented that is not speculative, then I will change my conclusion, because that's what I've done on this case. Until this memo came out, I was weighing toward the more extreme version of this theory. And you can look back at my tweets and what I've said about it.
You were. Yeah.
And then this came out, and now my perspective has changed. When the facts change and the people who are speaking,
I guess I'm just not that.
We have no evidence that the facts changed. In fact, there is now, according to the people, a 99% chance that Donald Trump is named in these files, which I would say is why they have not been released. That's what Elon said. That's what Elon said. Don't forget, this all kind of started, at least this latest incarnation of, this flare-up started when he tweeted that out. So just incredible gaslighting there. Mr. Sandwich says, if there's no Epstein list, more proof of that is required, then trust me, bro. Maxwell isn't in prison for 20 years for nothing. Ricky Robertson, Ben isn't in any danger of Mossad's retaliation. Meghan's sources are. Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other imbalance.
He's a cutout, man. He's a cutout. He's an agent of Israel, literally.
Yes, absolutely. So that was just an incredible piece of gaslighting there. But Shapiro was not done. Here is another rant of his regarding Tucker's latest speech at Turning Point USA.
Of tape. There are, by the way, but they are child pornography. The reason the FBI is not releasing them is because those tapes do not include underage people with third parties on Epstein Island. That is not what the tapes are. I also have sources in the federal government who are covering this stuff and have seen the documents. Those tapes are just child porn. That's all. That's what they are. That's why the FBI is not releasing them. Okay. As far as the Epstein list, what I have been told by my sources is that there is no Epstein list. That basically there's a black book of Jeffrey Epstein contacts, and the vast majority of those contacts are already out there publicly. That's why you know names like Prince Andrew or Alan Dershowitz or some of the names that have been mentioned here. Those contacts, there is no evidence, according to the DOJ and the FBI, and again, that's public. There's no evidence that any of those third parties were having girls trafficked to them. Here is Tucker then asserting that it was actually Mossad. Again, without evidence, that not a shock. Of course, this is where Tucker was going. This has become the hot speculation on the internet, is without evidence. You say that Mossad was running Jeffrey Epstein. When I say without evidence, I mean without evidence. Naftali Bennett, the former Israeli prime minister, said, quote, as a former Israeli prime minister, with the Mossad having reported directly to me, I say to you with 100% certainty, the accusation that Jeffrey Epstein somehow worked for Israel or the Mossad running a blackmail ring.
He cites this as if he's citing like the Torah itself. As if Naftali Bennett said it, this is a definitive source. It's a tweet by a habitual liar.
I don't understand why uniquely in a world where conservative media is printing money, Daily Wire is going bankrupt. I can't imagine why.
Is categorically and totally false. This accusation is a lie being peddled by prominent online personalities such as Tucker Carlson, pretending they know things they don't. And in fact, I followed up with the former Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, and what he told me is...
In fact, I called him and I asked him, is Epstein Mossad? And he said no, so what more do you want? I mean, what, you just have every Israeli prime minister who ever lived in his phone? He could just call him up. I checked with him. Yeah, I confirmed what he said there. I said, "Hey, was that tweet you sent, was that a lie?" He said, "No, it's not a lie. That's true." Okay. All right.
This is how completely out of touch Zionists typically, like more and more so as time goes on. They're just completely lacking self-awareness.
Yeah, they don't.
Like, he thinks that's an own.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize, if anything, you're undermining your credibility by citing an Israeli propagandist, former prime minister, as a source.
Yeah, it's like I called OJ. I said, "Did you stab your wife?" He said no.
He said no,
and that's it. And that's it. I mean, what more do you want? I asked him. He told me no.
The Mossad has not been active in the United States or against the United States since the Jonathan Pollard scandal of 1987, when a U.S. Army contractor who's actually working for the Navy revealed classified information.
To say something like
You're saying there's been no Mossad operating in the United States for 40 years? 40 years. What was it? 87 or 38 years?
We've covered this a few times. The Nation did a whole article about how Russiagate was really Israelgate.
Right.
That a lot of the fact pattern that they pointed out that looked fishy. Yeah, some of that shit was fishy. It was Israel. It was never Russia.
Right. Exactly. It was all Israel. So that is just pretty outstanding stuff. Pretty great comedy there from Ben Shapiro. That's the funniest stuff he's ever done, I think. That's the funniest he's ever been.
Probably.
So congratulations. All right, you got some super chats or Rumble rants?
Yeah, let me make sure I'm on the right one. What was your last one there?
My last one was
see, yeah, she sent us a bunch.
Yeah, we got a bunch. Okay, my last one was the Nerdrotic one, so it's the 10 photo batch.
I got it. All right. This is from Goo81. 700 Syrians killed in Damascus today by the country which we can't mention. Ironically, al-Shara is the only leader that was not targeted in these strikes. Vigens. Come on, is it me, or doesn't Ben Shapiro sound like the Micro Machine Man from the 80s commercial? You know what? That went over my head. I don't even know that. Ben was on that island. No way. They would never let him on that island. He's not cool enough.
He's not cool enough.
He's not cool enough. That's why Mike Johnson wasn't on the island. Sparky. Shapiro et al. Are actively pushing the limited hangout that it was just a pervert and girlfriend exploiting teen girls. No Mossad, no CIA, Five Eyes intelligence community, blackmail involved. I mean, he's trying. From Phil, you guys should watch the movies Jones Plantation and Barnum World. Great movies. The director, Tregsman, would be a great guest. All right. Never heard of those movies, actually. You've heard of those movies, Keaton?
Which ones?
Jones Plantation and what was the other one?
No, I don't think so.
I haven't heard of them. Amadeus. Of course, when Ben was on that island, he tattled on the victims that they weren't letting him have a turn on the Xbox. Nocturnal Human. It's ironic that Trump has to get a man that sounds like a 14-year-old boy to defend him, isn't it? All right.